So if they so yeah, today we're going to do some CMA stuff, how to price to sell, go over pricing objections and how to handle those with scripts, studying fundamentals of how you come up with that price, and discover standards and techniques to deliver a great CMA and your price recommendation. So let's just go ahead and jump in and get started. Does everybody who here has done a CMA before? Just if you have, make a shout. Nobody?
I have, Austin.
Okay. All right. Who's speaking?
Hey, Austin, it's Michelle Vandergriff. How you doing, buddy?
Okay. Hey, Michelle. Hey. Okay.
Hey.
Well, I know you've done one.
Yeah, one or two, buddy.
Yeah. All right. Well, good deal. Does everybody have did they get the email with the packet and everything we're going to be going through?
Yep.
If so, go ahead and pull that up along with the MLS.
All right, let's see here.
All right. So who today has done some lead generation? Have you made any phone calls to find business, contact new people? Anybody out there in Zoom land? Let me know if you've done any phone calls today. No?
Tons of phone calls.
Okay.
It's my job.
So sometimes when we start, go again.
I did tons of phone calls this morning.
Okay, good. And how was your, how many contacts did you make out of that?
Really, probably a few, but the issue that I'm having is we're running our Facebook ads and a lot of people are just looking to rent. And that's not, we don't do that. So I'm trying to help them get resources so they can find out what they're looking for. And I always tell them, I refer them to our lender and say, contact him if you're wondering what your options are, because you can buy a home if you want to, most likely. So, but yeah, I've been setting up smart plans in Command too, to contact the old leads, so those aren't missed.
Good. Yep. Okay, very good. So helping sellers determine the correct price is, very instrumental in one, getting the listing, and then two, selling the listing. A lot of us know if you overprice a house, it's not going to sell. Mindset has a big role in when you go into that appointment of how your price recommendation. So keep in mind that your mindset, it does play a big role in everything, and especially with this. So we're going to go over, how markets work, local market conditions, and pricing criteria. And demand is down, prices fall. And when supply is low, demand is up, prices increase. What do y'all think the current market is? Do you think?
Current market?
Do you think? Yeah, the current market. What's our current market like right now?
It's a seller's market.
Say it again.
Good for the seller.
Yep, definitely. Inventory's low, so demand is high. Inventory's low means prices are going to be high. And determination of value is another way that markets work. Basically, that is a tug of war between what the buyer wants, or what the seller wants, and what the buyer is willing to pay. Local market conditions also affect the way a house sells. So inventory, which we just talked about, right now inventory is low. Another condition you want to look at is days on the market. Price per square footage is good in some instances, and then changes in local landscape. So monitor changes in local major employers, shopping, schools. I know some of y'all may be familiar, Martinsville years ago was a good place to be because of all the factories, but when the factories went overseas, that landscape changed dramatically. So that's another. Are y'all there? I feel like we just lost connection. The internet here is awful. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I feel like it cut out for a second. So, okay. And what do y'all think the reason is that inventory has been so low in our area? What do you think factors into that?
Demand, low supply.
Austin, I think,
Speak up some.
are you there, Austin? Can you hear me, Austin?
You're kind of breaking up a little bit.
Yeah. How about now? Do you have me now?
This is really annoying.
Yeah,
It keeps cutting out.
yeah, I'm gonna get you on leadership Wi-Fi. Try that one.
I am on leadership Wi-Fi.
You are on leadership
Yeah.
Wi-Fi. Wow. That was my solution.
We just need better internet. All right, we're back again. It keeps cutting out here. So the question was, what do you think is contributing to having such low inventory?
Can you hear me now, Austin?
I can, yes.
Sorry, man.
Yep.
This is just my personal take. I think that the market has been so rapid and strong for about a year and a half. A lot of people put their home on the market. We saw a lot of sales, way more than we have in the past. I'm hoping, because I know the pandemic didn't hurt. I mean, I capped and a lot of people capped. And actually, probably a lot of people had the best year of their life. But anyway, I think maybe I'm hoping there's just some people that are holding out. But I really think right now, we sold so many homes, and statistically, for them to sell again, it's 5 to 10 years. I hope we're not just in a waiting period, but I just think that we've sold so many so fast. And then some people, especially older people, they haven't seen their grandkids in months because they're waiting. I'm hoping that floods us as soon as everything starts getting better.
Right. I do think that COVID has played a role in the inventory. A lot of people held off on listing their house. And so the ones that did list reaped the benefits of having a swarm of buyers. We'll just have to see, how it goes this year. I can tell you the inventory is still very, very low. And so, yeah. So pricing criteria, getting the facts about pricing means evaluating a given property against other comparable properties. Comparing your client's 20-year-old 3-bed, 2-bath house in a neighborhood of similarly built homes or homes that sold recently. You don't want to obviously compare it to a new construction, or if it is not a new construction, if it's 20 years old. Factors that come into play: location, size, amenities, condition. So, yeah. Does everybody know where to find the low market statistics on the MLS? If not, I'm going to show you. So let me just make sure I'm sharing the screen. Let's see. All right. So in the MLS, you have My Market, Market Summary. There's a bunch of different ones you can go to. Oh, there it goes. All right. So March of last year, that's last year. Let's look at last month. All right. So January of 2021, the active volume was 327 million, was 107 million. That was listing, and then this is the sales. Average list price, active average list price is 420. Sold average list was 286. And that's a 98% list price to sales price ratio. If we do, let's just say, well, let me try this again. Slow, so don't know why. Change it right here for inventory. Up here, sold days on market. So January, the sold days on market was about 46. So this is just kind of where you would find out what that kind of stuff, the statistics. So y'all know what that is. Also, you have market snaps with Kelly or Command. That will give you neighborhood-wide statistics, and that will tell you the average days on market, the average list price, average sold price, and that's more very local. So you go to a neighborhood, you ask for that market statistic, and the Kelly app will give that to you, and it's a very good tool to use. You can also get market stats from your mortgage lenders, title companies, that kind of stuff. They also keep track of, how many closings they've done and what they see, rates, sales. So, all right. So there's not really a big point in getting a listing if it's not going to sell. Can everybody agree on that? If you take a listing that's $100,000 overpriced, and it doesn't sell, you're probably going to be in the hole rather than making money. Now, sometimes the seller will say, hey, I want to try a little higher, but, in a few months, if we haven't sold, we'll reduce it. That's a different story. But you really want to price it in the market. So the biggest thing that drives that is selling a house is price and then condition of the property. That's another big thing, is conditions. So we'll get back to the PowerPoint. So CMA, search for homes in the criteria, select certain homes, decide, and then review them. Pricing recommendation. When a seller wants to go above your recommended price, be sure that they know that any offer they accept must meet the test of the buyer's appraisal. A price that won't appraise will require additional money from the buyer or will require the seller to have to reduce their commission. I mean, their price. Price per square foot can be a valuable tool, but only when comparables are very close together in terms of features, age, condition, location. Properties in a newer subdivision would be a good example. A lot of sellers get hung up, and I think part of it's due to HGTV, is price per square foot. They'll finish the basement and expect that price per square footage should be the same as a house that has 2,000 square feet above ground. That's not how the appraiser looks at it, though. He will separate the above ground square footage and then the below ground square footage. So it is good when comparing very similar property where to take, just a blanket, this is what this got, it should apply to my house. So I have a couple scripts as far as knowing what the seller can and can't control. It's important the seller understands that agents and sellers don't determine the purchase price, the market determines the price. A thing I've heard is, if you bought, like back in 08, people bought, or before 08, people bought houses a lot higher, and then they weren't worth as much, even 10 years later. One script you can use for that is, Mr. Seller, if you bought stock at $30 a week ago, but the price dropped to 20 today, are you still going to be able to sell it for 30? And the answer is no. And it's the same thing with houses. The market determines the price. Here's another script. Mr. Seller, some of the things you can control during the selling process are the condition of your property, the availability of your home for showings, and your positioning in the market. In the end, value is determined solely by what the buyer is willing to pay in today's market, based on comparing your home to others currently in the market for sale. I don't determine the value, neither do you. The market determines the value. Does this make sense? That's a script you can use. Window of opportunity. The best chance of selling the house is when it first hits the market. The first 2 weeks, it used to be the first 2 weeks. Right now, houses aren't even sitting for 2 weeks if they're priced right. So you are going to have your best chance right out of the gate. If you start too high, you kind of lose that chance to get a good offer and get it sold quickly. Yeah, so after 5 or 6 weeks, offers and showings will decrease dramatically. All right.
Why after 6 weeks?
That's just what this chart is saying. They've done some studies, and that's an average. So after normally the first few weeks, you're going to have the most showings and offers. If it hasn't sold by then, it will tend to decrease.
Okay.
Yep. Because once it's new, it's just when a house is new, everybody wants to see it. All right. So pricing also requires facts and numbers, but it's an art of persuasion. Choosing the right comparables is a big step. There's a lot more to it. You need to know if what direction the market's going. Is it appreciating or depreciating? Market speed of change, how quickly are prices changing? So we saw last year that quite a bit, just from February to, I'd say, August, there was a big difference in what a house would have sold for, or even January. I know I sold a house last January 2020 that would have sold for easily $50,000 to $75,000 more this January. And it was crazy. The other thing to make sure the seller understands is chasing the market down. In a rising market, sellers feel time is on their side and may price above the current market, hoping the market will catch up and bring them the prices they want. The issue is, if you price above the market, you're going to be chasing the market down. So in a couple of weeks, it's not going to have sold. You're going to reduce it. You end up probably reducing it more in the way it works when you chase the market down and don't price it accordingly from the get-go. Now, when prices are falling, sellers can often make a big mistake of pricing too high. Same thing as when prices are, increasing. You still want to look at today's or the closest to today's numbers. Another big thing with presenting the CMA is don't be afraid to be honest. Pricing, right, is hard work. It's worth it because it nets your seller's goals and it makes you money because it's going to sell. Professional honesty is your best approach. So a lot of people are, scared to tell them the price recommendation if the seller is unrealistic. But, property condition, buyer and agent feedback, and just the comparable properties. At the end of the day, you don't set the price. The appraiser technically sets it. So, or the bank. So here's a little script you can use to address pricing honestly. And, it starts out you saying, do you want me to tell you the truth or do you want me to tell you want to hear? One thing I use is that I tell the seller, I said, I'm always going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to be the one that just tells you what you want to hear. And a lot of people appreciate that. So I would recommend, if you're having a tough pricing conversation, to use that. Okay. If a seller insists on a higher than market price. Yeah, hello? Can y'all hear me?
I got you, Austin, but not Krista.
Okay, so if a seller insists on a higher than market price, go ahead and get an agreement now. Say that again. Very, very frustrating. All right, I'm going to just keep going. I'm hoping y'all can hear me. So if a seller very much insists on a higher than market price, go ahead and get an agreement now that if you don't have a bona fide offer within, say, 2 weeks, that you'll reduce the price to the recommended price. I've used that before. I have had sellers that are very adamant about what they want to try and they need to see for themselves. And we've done it to where after 2 weeks, this house hasn't sold. We don't have an offer. We're not getting any showings. And I call them back and I say, hey, we really need to go ahead and reduce it to $299. And that way we can get this house sold. The first few weeks your home is on the market are the most critical. All right. So what are some factors that drive price? I want to hear from y'all. Huh?
The location,
Yep.
schools, and amenities, shopping,
Yeah.
places like that.
And what sells? What causes a house to sell and that another one may not sell?
Condition of the house.
Right. What else?
One thing that dark pricing.
Well, yeah, pricing does. That helps. And that goes along with the condition as well. What can the seller control and what can the seller not control?
The condition of the house.
Condition of the house. Yep. What else?
The area around them. So if you got a neighbor that's, have a junk car, or they've let their house go, or, maybe it's a rental, that can turn people off. They love that house, but they're not gonna live beside those, neighbors.
So yeah, that'd be something they could not control. Another thing is staging. They can control that. They can control how the house looks, A, from the outside with curb appeal, and B, on the inside. If it's cluttered or not clean, that's something they can control that will significantly increase not only what they'll get for the house, but how quickly it'll sell. A cluttered house will probably sell for 5 to 10% less than one that's been decluttered. Okay. And the window of opportunity, how would you describe that?
Well, like you said, houses normally, 2 weeks was the norm. Now it's 2 hours. But if people go to the house you've listed and it's not as good as the pictures, or it's cluttered or whatever, they're just going to go to the next house that comes out on the market. They're going to skip that one. They're going to forget about it. So your window of opportunity could be small. If your seller doesn't want to believe, okay, yes, Austin, you're right, I should declutter my house. Yes, Austin, I should go ahead and paint over that spot that came in from a leak last year. Little things like that's going to steer them away, and they're not going to come back.
Yeah. Yep. So now what we're going to do is actually do a CMA. What I want y'all to do, I'm going to give you an address. This is an active listing. So pretend you could pretend your buyer's interested in it and you want to make sure they're getting a good deal. Say that again. So I'm going to give you an address. You want to try to find 3 or 4 properties comparable based on the location, size, condition, amenities, updates, lot size, year. And so that address is 1708 Meadows Road in Vinton. And I will pull it up as well.
How do we can tell the condition of the other comparable houses?
You just have to look at the pictures online. Yeah. Yeah. Now, if it's a house that, say you're doing a CMA on a house that's not been listed before, can't find any recent pictures, or there are pictures, but they've done a lot of updates. Your best bet is to actually go see the house in person before you give them a CMA. And that may be a thing where you do 2 appointments. You see the house first, so you get a good idea of what that actually looks like. Then you go back and do a CMA. Well, trying to load. Have y'all had a chance to pull that house up yet? My internet's still running slow. Who's been able to pull it up? Give me a yes or no.
No.
Yes.
Has anybody pulled it up yet?
Yeah,
Okay.
I got it. I got it, Austin.
So this property is in Benton. Okay. All right, good deal. So this property is 3-bed, 3-bath. It's built in 2002. It's a split level. It's got 2-car garage. Finished square footage about 1670. It's listed at 234,950. I always go ahead and I take a look through the photos. Maybe. No. So the big photos aren't loading, so I'm just gonna look through the small ones. What I can see is they have, looks like hardwoods. Kitchen is not updated, but it's not the worst. Got new, it's got mostly stainless appliances. Well, okay. So in order to do the CMA, I'm going to make a note on a separate piece of paper for me that, it's a 3-bed, 3-bath, 1,600 square feet, 2002, and 2-car garage. And I'm gonna go up here, quick search. And I'm gonna type this address in. You drop a pin there. Go up to status. We're gonna look for active, pending, and closed. I'm just gonna do last year, just to make it easy.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
How did you put a pin in there?
Somebody have a question?
I do.
Oh, okay. So at the bottom corner, right here, there's
Okay,
that
got it.
push pin.
Yeah.
And you will click that, yep, and type the address. Yep.
Thank you.
So total bedroom, we want at least, you're welcome, we want at least 3. I'm gonna put 2-bath, just to be open a lot of, hey. I'm also gonna add, oh, here it is, never mind. Garage, I'm gonna do all 3, just having a garage. I'm gonna put the list price probably minimum of 200,000. And we can try to make it a by the style. So I'm gonna do all the type of split levels. We might have to make this search a little bigger, but I'm gonna start there, see how it goes. A quick view on map. All right. So. I'm gonna take this polygon. Seems as if we got cut off again. Still on the CMA, so. All right, what I did was I dropped that pin, I made this search criteria, and I drew a polygon kind of around there, and that will give me these results. Another tool I use to go with my CMA is the RPR, which at the top of your MLS that says RPR, it'll open this up. And I run one of these as well. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. It's Realtor's Property Resource. It's like an automated report. And okay. So we've got quite a few split levels nearby that have a garage. That one, I need to look at what it was priced at because I forgot now. Come on.
You stink.
So, all right, so 234 is what our subject property is priced at. So let's take a look at this one. It's a 3-bed, 2.5 bath. It sold last year before the market really took off, though. Similar size, built almost exact same year. It's a year newer. Got this one on Praline. A little older, similar size though. I'm not sure I'm gonna be able.
I just found you a website. Kind of back to me.
Oh no. Which one?
They,
All right, we're back.
I'm on training.
Okay.
David got Mom an appointment today. The shot for schedule from.
How'd he do it?
Well, I haven't talked this morning. He said they found him. Got it.
All right.
All right, guys, we're back.
I think
All right, so this
Mm.
one on Stewart Avenue is one on Stewart Avenue is a little bit newer, 2010.
yeah, but it's that was one.
Can you mute yourself?
Pay attention.
Mhm.
Oh.
Okay, thank you. This is about really important.
Whoever's talking, please mute yourself. Okay. One on Stewart View. Built in 2010, so it's a little newer. Does have an extra bedroom, same bath, a little bit bigger. Another one on Stewart View, newer, extra bed, same bath, about the same size. And that one sold in November, so pretty recently. It was on the market for 15 days. Let me see how long this one was on the market. This sold in December. It was on the market for 2 days. They had it listed at $229. Sold price was $236, so either got bid up or they covered closing costs and added them on top. Toddsbury Lane. It's a 3-2. It's a little bit smaller. It sold at $225. Let's look at Melissa's Circle. Ideally, you want to look through the pictures to see how it compares to your subject property. Unfortunately, I'm not able to do that because the internet will not load it. But that is how you really make a good assessment of, you know, how it really compares. I'm gonna run that RPR. Based on what y'all are seeing, how do you think the subject property is priced out? How do you think it's priced based on what we're seeing right here? So ours is at 234. We've got a few that were newer with an extra bedroom, sold at 225. I can't see the inside, but yeah. One of those sold last month, or less than a month ago, or a little more than a month ago, rather.
So ours will be overpriced. I mean, considering.
I think it's probably a tad overpriced, yeah. Yeah, just basing it on, so this one looks almost identical. Sold at 209. It's an extra bedroom. Like I said, I can't see the inside, so I don't know. It could be all carpet and very outdated. I don't know. $25. Definitely not higher. Not much higher than that. Now they may be able to grab 234 for it because the inventory is so low. It's another thing to keep in mind. Like we were saying, it is, you know, the inventory is super low.
So that's the situation where we, okay, let's say go ahead with 234, but if it doesn't sell in that 2-week time slot, let's
Right.
look at it again.
And that you only want to do that if the seller's adamant on that 234 number.
Okay.
If they give you, if you give your recommendation, say you want to try 229, and they're like, no, I want 235. You say, well, all right, you know, I'll be honest, I'm not sure that's going to work. We can give it a shot in 2 weeks or in a week. If we haven't had like a ton of showings, then we need to go ahead and drop it, because the longer we sit on the market, the worse it's going to do. Can I get some feedback on where y'all are at with doing the CMA?
So Austin, I'll tell you, I do, and I know they changed the quick search. And I appreciate you showing us how to do it quick search way. And that is the quick way. But like you said, sometimes you walk into a house and you get there and it's not as nice as you thought it might be.
Yeah.
I am very old school. I believe in what you learn. You just, if it works, do it. And sometimes I'll try to go through the whole long drawn out CMA.
Mhm.
And I'll go through that. And I do like you. I look at the pictures. I'm very slow at doing a CMA because I try to compare, does it have carpet, who's got hardwood, who might have granite, who's got a newer roof. I mean, you can tell a lot of that, you know, even if you have hardwoods, are they worn out? Do they need refinishing? So that's my take. I probably take the long way around to get home sometimes. So that's my feedback, but I do it kind of like you. I look at every picture and compare it in my mind of what house I've been to or where I'm going, so I'll know. And I've done where if I'm there and it's my first time and I got to do a twofer, I'll take pictures of my phone, get back home and then say, okay, this is what this looks like. And here's what the comparables look like.
So what are y'all seeing? How do you feel that that property is priced, the 1708 Meadows Road, based on what comps you've looked at? Do you feel like it's priced at market, high or low?
I think it's a little bit over, but like you said, right now with homes, actually a CMA is really tough because things are going much higher than we've usually had to deal with. But
Right.
I'd bring it down at least $5,000. And hopefully you have a good buyer agent that knows and does, you know, the comps for their buyer, because you know as well as I do, you might get a seller that the appraisal comes in 8,000 low and they're like, I'm not selling it. And then your buyer spent money on appraisal, spent
Mhm.
money on a home inspection. They're out, you know, $900.
Right. Yep. So I would agree with that. I do think it's probably a tad high, and I think she's most likely just trying to take advantage of how low inventory is and seeing if maybe she can get that and maybe have a loose appraiser that will just do it right at loan value, because there are a lot of appraisers that will literally do, you know, that 335. The challenging thing is, like we've seen, there's a lot that are very similar, but a lot of them are much newer. Some of them have an extra bedroom and some of them are actually a little bit bigger. So I do think she's probably close on the price. It is a tad bit high. Has anybody out there found a comp that they say, well, actually it should be higher? Anybody? No, me either. Yeah. So when we go to the seller and we have printed off this CMA, so what we would do is you would go through these, you would select the ones that make the most sense. So I'd probably do some of these. I'd throw that one in there too, because that one's very similar. And this one. And then just do CMA. This is how I do it. I just do you select in a quick CMA and you'll download that, print it off. So when we get to the appointment, after you do your walkthrough, after y'all sit down at the kitchen table and you're going over, you know, we're getting into the point where they're going to ask, hey, what do you think it should be priced at? You're going to go over the CMA with them. The way I do it is I have my phone or a tablet. I pull up all these comps and I go through each picture with them. And I point out, you know, this one has this. Oh, it has an extra bedroom. This one took 14 days to sell. That one took 69 days to sell. That kind of stuff. Putting it all out there. And they will see that when they're looking through these other houses, they're going to be thinking, well, yeah, that one is a little nicer than mine, or mine's better, or whatever. So it's important to go through that with them. It's helped me a lot in the past. So, explaining the CMA, here's some scripts that you can use. Mr. and Mr. Seller, would you like to get the highest possible price for your property? If they say no, which they're not going to say, dig deeper and be, what do you mean? And sometimes it may just be they just want to get rid of the house. It could be an estate thing. And they're like, I don't really care. I just want to get rid of it. If yes, continue. So to achieve the highest price possible, we must have maximum exposure to the marketplace. The most important decision you will make is in respect to where you decide to price your property. The way most sellers establish their listing prices with a CMA. As you can see from this CMA, the average time on the market is X days. We'll just say 60. This means that if you want to sell your property in less than 60 days, you have to be in the top 50% in terms of price and property condition. To sell in 30 days, you'll have to be in the top 10 to 15% in terms of price and property condition. So determining list price. Mr. Sellers, like I said, the most important part of listing your house is determining price. Pricing your home at fair market value will attract more buyers. Attracting more buyers will usually result in a higher price. Overpricing your home, on the other hand, results in longer market time and possibly lower price. And I've seen this played out over and over again. I have done it, especially when I first started, I would take a listing and explain to them, well, they want to start higher. We end up actually probably selling it for less than it should have if we had initially priced it at the right price. So would you like to price your property sell quickly, or will you price your property where it could take longer to sell? Another thing you could say is, do you want to price your house to help sell your neighbor's house? Because when they go to that neighbor's house and they see that, you're asking 20 grand more, but they have the same thing, you're only going to help that neighbor sell their house faster. Say they give an objection is, we need a certain amount from this sale to buy our next home. And, one thing you could say to overcome that is, will you as a buyer pay what the seller wants because that's the price they need? No, you'll pay what it's worth. Isn't that right? That's what buyers are going to do too. Can we price a little higher and come down later? So we went over this originally. Here's some options you can use for that objection. Option one, here's what frightens me about pricing higher. People who have seen many houses will find yours. They won't look at it because of price. We don't want to drive buyers away. We want to attract buyers. We want them to make offers. Does that make sense? And with today, everybody shopping online for homes, buyers are more savvy than they used to be. I mean, they're definitely more savvy. The other option you can say is, the greatest number of showings come in the first 3 weeks. If they see the house is overpriced, they walk away and we don't get them back. Let's get one or more people to make an offer right away. If more than one likes your price, they might even compete and drive it higher. And we see that a lot now. Say they ask you, how can we be sure the price you're recommending is the right price? And your answer is, real estate is market-driven commodity like stocks. If you ever bought a stock, how do you know what it's actually worth? When you sell a stock, although you know what you paid for it, the market doesn't care. The market says what your home is worth. It's not me saying what it's worth. Closing the deal. After studying the comparables, taking into account the unique characteristics of your home and its setting, and using my knowledge of the averages in your neighborhood, I've prepared my recommendation. Remember, my primary goal is to net you the most possible money. And I believe this pricing plan matched with my marketing plan will draw agents and buyers to your home and be highly appealing and highly competitive. So what I normally ask before I say anything like that is, once we go through all the comparables, I ask the seller, so based on what I've shown you, what do you think the house will sell for? And just wait for them to answer. And they will most of the time tell you a range. Sometimes they'll refuse and want to hear what you have to say. But if you can get them to speak first, you're going to have a better time of at least understanding where they came up with this number or being on the same playing field. So that's pretty much all we have today. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody have any ahas or learn anything today?
Hey, Austin, do you take the monthly or the compare year-to-year statistics with you? I mean, people do watch the market, but they're getting the Zillow and the Realtor. They don't have what we have. Have you been starting to take that with you because the market's so crazy?
I have not, no, but I think that's probably a good idea, to show people what it is. Normally, I don't usually do that. I send that out in an email to everybody once a month, but I don't usually take it on my listing appointment. But I think it's still a great idea. Yep. What other questions y'all have? Anybody?
So when you go into the MLS and you find comparables and you click all of them, that you can print all of them out?
Yeah, so the ones you select, those are going to be the ones that are on your CMA. Now you can use all of them, but you don't want to use all of them. You want to find
Like 2 or 3?
Well, you'd like to get technically, and we can't do this around here. They say you want to have 5 active, 5 pending, and 5 sold. That's very difficult to do. You want to try to have a good mix of both. You want to have mostly sold, maybe a pending, and maybe an active. But active is not. It's not what drives market price. It's the closed.
All right, because I thought we were all supposed to be closed. So.
Not necessarily, no. And what you usually say with the pending is, we don't know exactly what this is going to. What this is sold for, but we can assume that since it's pending, they were probably close to the right price, especially if it hadn't been on the market long. Now, if it's been on the market for a year and just went pending, then that may be a different story. But you can say we can assume that it'll probably be close to this price based on our market, which is 98% list to sales price. So you want to try to get a good mix. Obviously, focus heavy on the sold. And I would try to get at least 5.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Hey, Austin, just to help Jennifer out, she's at her office now. How far back do you go when you do your CMA? I know I usually do 6 months. If I can't find something, I go a year. I don't know if you know that, Jennifer, but I'm glad to, and I've done deals with Austin to kind of help you out with things to look for.
Yeah, that's what I do. I usually do 6 months. If there's not enough, which a lot of times there isn't, I'll go a year. Yeah. You want to try to find as many for 6 months, but it's not always possible, especially in our area with especially the more rural areas or something that isn't having an area that doesn't have a lot of sales. You're probably going to have to go back a year. Any other questions?
Hey, Austin, I'm gonna keep bugging you.
Okay.
I know you love it. Yeah. Hey, so I know this is about doing your CMA and your pricing and stuff.
Yeah.
But you do have some new people on here.
Yep.
I didn't know if you wanted to give any tips for kind of, maybe getting listings and kind of how you work your 1-fold or your 2-fold, what you need to do. That, we got somebody last week, but it's always good to hear from others, not just people in the office.
Right. Yeah. So listings are kind of tough to come by right now. There's the way I built my business was on starting expired listings. And that's something that is a little more difficult now because not as many listings expire. You could go after older ones. The other thing is a way to get listings now is if somebody has a buyer, we're having a hard time finding them homes. So you can call around to this neighborhood or door knock and say, hey, Mr. Seller, I've got a buyer for this house. And, I don't know if you're interested in selling, but if you would consider it, I'd love to come stop by, see if it would be a match for one of my buyers. Maybe it's not a match for the buyer, but maybe he does want to see what it's worth. So you do a CMA for him, and then he sees that, hey, this is actually a pretty good deal. I might as well take advantage of this, and you may get a listing that way. The other thing is, focusing on your sphere of influence. People that like you and trust you. And then there's always for sale by owners that you can go after. So even in today's market, for sale by owners are probably still taking a little less than they could get. And I talked to one today who, has been trying to sell it by themselves for a month. And I told her that if I were to list it today, we would probably have it sold within 2 weeks. So education on that end, I do think those are still good areas where you can find listings. And but I think the big thing right now is if you have a buyer or somebody that has a buyer and you can't find them a house, call a certain neighborhood, see if anybody would be interested in entertaining that, or call an expired and see if they still have interest in selling or showing to a buyer. And even if your buyer's not interested or whatever, then you could still get a listing out of it. If you don't have a buyer, I'm sure somebody in your office has a buyer. And basically your script would be, we have buyers coming in all the time. I'd love to come see your house just to see if it would fit, one of these buyers. Yep.
Giving the information to call somebody, I mean, that information, you find that on the MLS. Say you want to go to a person's house just to see if they.
Yeah, so you actually have to pay for a program for that. There's a couple different ones that will pull numbers, phone numbers and things for like a neighborhood or for expired listings and stuff like that. Now, did Frederica talk to you about coaching at all, coaching class?
She talked to me about a lot.
Yeah, okay. I'll talk to you after the class about it. Before we end, does anybody have any questions?
This is Krista in Lynchburg, and I do have one question.
Yep.
I was wondering, and you may have touched on this, I may have missed this part, but do you have any way to work with a house and find a price if there aren't comps previously out there? Have you run into that? I know that oftentimes more in the luxury market, you'll find a lot of that where they're very custom built and unique property. But how do you have any idea how to deal with that?
So that is tough if it's like a new house or a lake house or something like that. What I do in that situation is I encourage them to get an appraisal. And they can do a cost analysis of appraisal. So, what it would cost to rebuild, and they may be able to do, find another comp. That's one opportunity you can use. The other one is doing the best you can, take into account tax assessment, maybe run an RPR, and also find out, what it is they want to net on the house, and then go kind of reverse engineer that. But that's tough.
That makes sense. And, you were talking about square feet and how HGTV and all of that uses square feet. Is that one of those situations where you may have to?
You may. I would focus on above ground square footage. When the appraiser I talk to normally says that below ground, so finished basement, is usually about 50%. They usually use about 50% of what the above ground square footage would be, price per square foot. So that's not always the case either. It just depends. So yeah, that is one thing you could do. But on a unique house like that, square footage isn't created equal. So if they have, these Brazilian cherry cabinets or, whatever, and ivory or, just the crazy materials, then it's going to be kind of hard for that. And some of those houses at the lake are like that.
Yes, I have seen that. That's why I was wondering.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? All right. Well, I appreciate everybody participating and showing up. I hope this was helpful at least a little bit. And if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Let me know if I can help you. All right. Thank you.
Austin, thank you so much.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Austin.
I missed it. This better have been taped because I just got on the back end of it and I want to hear the rest of it.
Yeah.
Thank you
All
for
right.
your time.
You're welcome. Y'all have a good afternoon.
You too.
Bye-bye.